Excellent, thank you. So now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. And hello and good morning to everybody. I'm very excited and it's a great pleasure to be here with you all today. And to be very honest with you, this is my first international session of the EYP, as I only joined the foundation last year. And that's particularly exciting for me. I don't know about you, but I personally love firsts. And that's because you never really know exactly what to expect. And usually you learn a lot. So I'm very much looking forward to learning a lot today while I'm here with you. And I know that for all EYP volunteers and team members and also all the participants today, this session was also a first because it's the first international session to take place in full digital mode. And I hope, but I'm pretty sure that you all learned a lot as well. Over the past year, Europe, just like the entire world, faced a great health danger. But the pandemic was not only a danger to individual European citizens, but also to European cohesion. We witnessed a lot of closed borders, impossibility to travel and to meet, and many states in Europe were too busy dealing with themselves to help each other, which was somehow a low point in our cohesion and collaboration. But at the same time, this pandemic was also a huge chance. Understanding that we can only master such a situation together and that it doesn't get better if we do it all by ourselves. And at least for those states who are in the European Union, the COVID Recovery Fund mechanism is now an open door and another first in history for more joint financial instruments. So there's always something good that comes out of such a situation. That's at least what I witness and see. And what is more is that over this past year, Young Europe has been growing closer together as well, with collaboration with the European Parliament and the European Youth Forum. And we all together are doing everything to contribute and make young voices heard, particularly with the upcoming conference on the future of Europe. There's yet another great opportunity to unite and speak up. One more word on the pandemic. So next to the danger of getting sick with COVID, also people all over Europe face the danger of losing the joy in life due to social distancing and physical separation. And I know that EYP and you all were very affected. But what I also know is that the Milano team worked very hard to bring people together in alternative ways, create a community, also bring pieces of Italy to the participants via session packages and create an enjoyable experience in very outstanding circumstances. I heard that you even brought the national television to the EYP so that the entire country can learn about the incredible work you're all doing, and that's great. On the session website, we can read the slogan, "Extraordinary circumstances call for extraordinary commitment." And while this is meant to encourage all of you, and I hope it does, it also describes people like Katerina, Elena, Rebecca, Jerome, Lucas, and their fantastic teams. Some of them who have been working for this to happen for almost or close to 3 years. So this is an incredible commitment in very extraordinary circumstances. And while I know that meeting in person is always nicer and more inspiring than meeting in a digital space, we all know that such digital gatherings as today also have their advantages, not only in the context of a global pandemic, but also with regards to avoiding emissions due to traveling, catering, accommodation, and so forth. And with this session, we celebrate circular sustainability and the driving force of shaping tomorrow. And while there have already been great advances with regards to circular sustainability to solve major global challenges, much more progress is actually still needed, and particularly big dreams are still needed. And together with you, we want to lead by example and go a step further, go beyond the only necessary, And one example of this is that for every participant of the session, a tree will be planted to offset the carbon footprint of EYP well beyond this session. At the Schwarzkopf Foundation, our goal is to support young Europeans like you in your engagement, your activism, and your motivation to further dream these dreams with regards to sustainability and with regards to many other topics, and to work towards making them our future reality. Who else will take care of our future if not you? Who else will spend time and energy to make a positive impact in your community? And I know that you are all ready to do that, and you have already done a lot of this. So what we've seen throughout the last year, in particularly in preparation of this session, is a lot of resilient leadership of our volunteers, adapting, delivering, still keeping the team going. And I'm incredibly impressed by the positive mindset that I've seen and heard about, and that all the volunteers looked at everything as an opportunity and really didn't get discouraged by the very extraordinary circumstances that we're currently in. So I would like to take this chance to shout out to them as role models and icebreakers, creating a true success with this 92nd international session of the European Youth Parliament. And I wish you all a very productive and fun General Assembly. Stay active for Europe and stay united in diversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your words of welcome and your support. I think we're also all very, very excited to be in this groundbreaking event in many ways. So now we're going to move on to the procedure for General Assembly. So really all the information that we need to know to kick off with the debates. So we have prepared a little video, and after that I'll still add a few more technical details. So Danielle can go ahead with the video. Welcome to this short video on GA procedure. We'll explain the main steps in the new GA procedure that accompanies the new resolution format. To give you an overview of the main parts of GA, we begin with a context piece, then we discuss the aim of the resolution, then the policy proposals, and finally its summation and vote. In the first part of the debate for each resolution, we have the context piece. The context piece begins with an introductory video made by the media team. After that, the board reads the topic. And then there is 1 minute where each participant can read the resolution in silence. In the second part, we discuss the aim of the resolution. It begins with the proposing committee making a proposition speech of 3 minutes, where they present the aim of the resolution and how they came up with it, presenting their arguments. Then, all the other committees have the opportunity to give an opposition speech if they disagree with the aim and would like to propose something different. They have 2 minutes for that. After that, we go back to the proposing committee. They have 1 minute to respond. Then there are 1 or 2 rounds of open debate so that all other committees can chime into the discussion. This open debate is only focused on the aim of the resolution and the because clauses. After each round of open debate, which has 4 to 5 points each, we go back to the proposing committee for their response. In the third part of the GA debate, we focus on the policy proposals. It begins with the proposing committee making an explanatory speech of maximum 2 minutes, where they do not read out their clauses. They explain what policy proposals they have included to achieve their aim. They have 2 minutes for this. After that, we move on to open debate. There are 4 to 5 points per round and 2 to 3 rounds, where all the other committees can comment on the policy proposals, and only the policy proposals, as the aim and the because clauses have been discussed beforehand. In the last part of GA, we go to summation and vote. It begins with a 5-minute break for the proposing committee to discuss whether they wish to make one amendment to the resolution. This is a discussion for them in private. During this time, the rest of the delegates can read through the resolution to think about how they would like to vote. The proposing committee comes back and delivers a summation speech of maximum 3 minutes. If they've had decided to make an amendment based on the discussions during GA, they will explain it during their summation speech. After that, we move for the voting procedure. There are 2 votes, a first vote on the aim of the resolution, and if it passes, a second vote on the policy proposals. So this is our updated GA procedure. We hope you enjoy GA. Thank you. So this gave you a bit of an overview of the different sections. And now I'm going to go over a few more technical details that have to do with how we're using the Teams platform. You can also find, we try to write as detailed as possible the GA procedure in a document that's been posted in the General Assembly channel. So the few details I wanted to go over again, it is already in the detailed procedure for General Assembly, is that the meeting chat is only for placards. Chairpersons normally will never speak. All they will do is raise their hand, which is how they raise their placards. Delegates, you have to unmute yourselves. We don't have the power to unmute you, which means that when we recognize a committee, your chair, you're coordinating within your committee to know who will speak next, and then you have to unmute yourself if you're the person to speak from the committee. Are there any questions about the GA procedure or how to use Teams? And here you can raise your hand. Wow, everything is very, very clear. That's very exciting. Also, I'll ask for everybody's great cooperation and discipline and patience for the first debate, as we'll put it in action. But we're very excited. We're very excited for this. So on my end, I still have a couple of announcements, and then we can take a short break and begin, maybe even slightly before 10, if everybody's okay with that, and in particular the proposing committee. So we wanted to make one little announcement. So as you might have noticed in the program, there's 1 hour planned for each debate. Each debate is only supposed to last around 45 minutes. So there's a break in between each debate. And we'd like to leave the floor open to proposals for energizers. So anybody here, delegate, official, can lead an energizer if they wish in between the debates. If you have any ideas or anything you would like to lead for everyone, please contact Thanos, the VP. So you can find him on Teams. Send them a message of what you would like to do, and if you have a preference of when and how long it would take, and then Thanos will let you know when in the program you can lead it. And then the last thing is we wanted to try out polling. So I didn't come up with anything extremely original, so please forgive me. But the way we're going to do polling is through a polling function in the Teams chat. So I'm going to create a poll now. And that way we can also see how many people we can expect to vote. Okay. So the polling has been sent. It might take a few seconds to appear. So our poll is whether the water drops that we received are the best energizing drinks. So you can either vote in favor, against, or abstain. The voting is anonymous. please only delegates vote. So here's one of these moments when we ask for your discipline. So only delegates are voting, and so this will give us an idea of how many votes we can expect at the end of each round. We're going to give around 1 minute for the voting, so you can think about it. Normally, you've had about a week to try them out. Personally, I really like them, but I won't ever comment at the end of a resolution because we're just sharing the debate. We're not influencing the vote in any way. Okay, so let's give it a few more seconds. Okay, so have all the delegates voted? If anybody cannot see the poll, just please unmute yourself and ask. It's in the meeting chat. So if you click on the little chat icon, you can see it. So I'm now going to close the vote. And we can see the results. So with 72% of votes in favor, 48 votes in favor, 5 votes against, and 13 abstentions. Wow, I did not realize it was such a conflictual topic that was raising so many uncertainties. We're very happy to declare that this GA believes that water drops are the best energizing drink. Okay, so are there any final questions on GA procedure before we kick off the very first debate? Yes, Ruby.
Are you allowed to vote on your own resolution?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so if the proposing committee is ready to begin in 2 minutes, can the chair please raise their placard? Excellent. So before we begin, let's all stretch out a little bit. So this is the very first debate. We're very excited about this. We're going to get to hear your arguments, your speeches, your questions, your comments. So really your comments on what you think the future of Europe should be. So let's all just stretch and shake a bit and get ready. Yeah, get the juices flowing, sit up straight. And we will now kick off our very first debate of this General Assembly. Motion for a resolution by the Committee on Environment, Public Health and Food Safety 2. The day after tomorrow, with climate change leading to natural disasters striking with higher frequency and intensity, how can Europe best prepare to ensure the protection of vulnerable regions, safeguarding human life and cultural heritage? So we begin with a context piece by the media team.
5 years ago, everything changed. It's not like we didn't see it coming. The extreme weather events, unpredictable natural disasters, lives put at risk. Eventually, we got over our differences and united to form the Disaster Raisers. We traveled around Europe implementing warning systems, safeguarding human life and protecting cultural heritage. A disaster strikes. We will be there, but will it be enough?
I'm Natiana Julia from the committee of NV2, and our committee's aim is to create a democratic and participatory mechanisms in European countries. The European Youth Parliament aspires to ensure that European citizens are not afraid of the challenges posed by climate change and that cultural heritage is protected. And we want to achieve that by participating in international cooperation and knowledge sharing, as well as developing creative, localized, and proportionate solutions to protect the European history itself. So it was one of the challenging parts of the committee work. All 8 of us, we were brainstorming, gathering ideas, and phrased the whole sentences, and it was pretty much done. I also have to mention the importance of committee swaps because it really helped us gain even more confidence in our work. And we also got a lot of positive feedback on our work and our aim. We wanted to come up with the ideas which would be possible to implement and recreate in real life. And at the same time, we had to consider not only the economic sector, but as well as other parts such as mental and physical well-being of the citizens, and most of all, protecting the endangered cities and saving the cultural heritage sites. So that's the history would not be forgotten. Basically, this is what the whole committee is about.
Thank you to NV2 and to the media team. So now please take 1 minute to read through the resolution. You'll find the updated resolution booklet in the GA channel. Okay, so the time is up. Is the proposing committee ready to deliver a proposition speech? NV2, you're recognized. I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I can't hear your voice. I only hear some background noise. Maybe if you quit Teams and restart and join again. So while we're waiting for the delegate from NV2, just as a reminder, when we finish this debate, we'll take our first GA picture. And don't forget that you can see all of us in together mode. And while we wait, you can continue reading through the resolution.
Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, thank you. So, thank you for your recognition, first of all. Dear Ms. President, honorable members of the board, dear officials and fellow delegates, my name is Nadia Ninashvili, and it's a great pleasure to present a proposition speech on our committee aim and resolution aim. We want this aim because we seek for a change and ensure that the voices are heard. We understand how painful it is for each one of us to fear displacement, lose the past, and the beautiful culture that each country holds. It expresses and forms values and beliefs and also defines the identity of a community. This is why our committee focuses on the fact that citizens will have no reasons left to be afraid of the above mentioned. Hence, we provide an efficient and well-balanced set of measures directly aimed at addressing the challenges posed to the cultural world heritage by climate change, as well as focusing on each citizen's both physical and mental well-being. In light of the current situation and taking into consideration that there is a lack of political will to take action on the issues also mentioned in our resolution, we urge to ensure each EU member state's cooperation and support in various existing frameworks, as well as strategies and so on. Moreover, by reaching that one specific goal, it would be much easier to gather the visions and ideas of each country's population, and with togetherness and cooperation, we could make a big difference and try to reduce the ongoing disaster risk. Our committee aim inclines that in this particular field, the Union is entirely open and democratic, nevertheless moving forward with local specific interventions. The rationale behind the statement is that such region-oriented adaptations and solutions help us focus more on the issue itself, grade the damage accurately, and afford the following and already implemented measures, or even those we present in the resolution. And we chose democracy and participation since the EU citizens are the ones making decisions on where to take part. The fellow delegates of the NV2 committee and I believe that this is the right direction in which the future of Europe should go, because climate change is affecting the heritage sites, people, and countries now and in the future, and effectively reacting to these impacts on the outstanding universal value is necessary for their continued preservation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this very well-timed speech. As just a little heads up, for the next times when a delegate is speaking, we'll do our best to spotlight them so it's easier to see them. Now we move on to opposition speeches. Are there any committees who would like to deliver opposition speeches? We can take 2 in total, and each speech will be 2 minutes maximum. 30 seconds before the end, we will tap the microphone, so you know you have 30 seconds. And the committees that will be giving opposition speeches will be we will be recognizing first Reggie and then Sede. You're recognized. So Reggie, you go first.
Thank you for recognizing me. Dear members of the board, fellow delegates, and distinguished guests, thank you for granting me the opportunity to deliver an opposition speech on behalf of my committee. How can one not fear the threats of climate change? How can one not fear the threat of a flood destroying their homes? How can one not fear the threat of a landslide demolishing their possessions? How can one not fear losing their loved ones during an avalanche? Your aim states that citizens should not fear these alarming threats. It only acknowledges the crucial fact of safeguarding Europe's history. Yet I ask you again, how can one not fear these threats? We recognize the importance of protecting the Union's cultural heritage. Our history is written in the walls of historical buildings. However, your aim fails to address how people's lives will be secured by raising awareness among citizens in vulnerable regions by means of knowledge sharing and collaborations. The problem doesn't go away. Innovation has the power to make buildings earthquake-proof, and you address that innovation would be implemented to save Europe's history. Why not use innovative technology to secure lives and make people feel safer? It is impossible to prevent natural disaster. Innovative technology can help communication while responding to the aftermath of one of those natural disasters. It even has the power to alter how citizens react. Technology can form a social connection. It allows people to communicate efficiently, even if phone lines are demolished during the disaster. And it allows people to feel safer in a dangerous situation because they know that they are helped. Therefore, we hope that you partially rethink your aim and also focus on saving human lives, not just raise awareness and save cultural heritage. We urge you to vote against this aim, as it fails to address the importance of safeguarding human lives. Humans write history. Let's save them too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, Sede, you're recognized.
Thank you so much for the recognition. I would like to build on what the last delegate said. How can someone not fear climate change? We've all seen what an impact it has on everyone's lives, how it keeps getting worse, and it keeps threatening human lives as time passes. How is it possible for some people, or all of the Earth actually, to not fear climate change? Maybe what you were trying to say is to fear the consequences of climate change. And you'd be right, because those are the ones that threaten people the most. So we believe that maybe you should rethink your aim on this part, saying that maybe people shouldn't fear to take action about climate change. Because as threatening as it is, we also need to take action in order to tackle it so people and history won't have to be in danger. In addition to that, in one of your because clauses, you mentioned that preventative measures and corrective actions are costly. Yes, they are costly, but sometimes, if not always, they are necessary. How else is someone supposed to deal with climate change without even taking any measures against it? And last but not least, your so-called democratic processes that you want to follow are a very good point. However, all these democratic processes have been followed until now, and yet we've seen no results. So climate change keeps deteriorating and threatening human lives and history. So maybe you would like to rethink that part as well. Thank you so much for a great resolution. However, your aim needs a little bit more work. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. So after this, we give the opportunity for the proposing committee to deliver a 1-minute response to these speeches. NV2, are you ready to deliver your response?
Yes.
You're recognized.
So, dear Ms. President, members of the board, guests and fellow delegates, we understand and listen to the criticisms that have been given to the aim that we've proposed. The biggest criticism that we've been given is essentially that we focus maybe too much on protecting history and not enough on human lives. And while I do partially understand where these criticisms are coming from, we also feel that in our policies and also in our facts below the aim, we have mentioned sufficiently statistics that focus on the effects that climate change and natural disasters will have on human lives. In regards to SEDE, our preventative measures, while perhaps mentioned too little in the aim, are also further elaborated. And in regards to the democratic processes that you mentioned, we feel that...
Please conclude.
We feel that together with our other proposals, the democratic process would work to reinforce those other problems or other solutions.
Thank you very much. You will have more chances to respond to all of these points and questions after the first round of open debate. So we now move to open debate. We're going to take 4 to 5 points. As a reminder, this first round of open debate is only to discuss the aim and the because clauses. So we kick off open debate with a point from NV1. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. My name is NV1 or 2, sorry.
Yes, NV1. Go ahead.
My name is Emma from NV1, and I would like to somewhat echo the points that were raised during Reggie and C-Day's opposition speeches. The aim statement, I feel, is quite misleading, as it suggests that we should not fear the detrimental impacts, which you go on to state are threatening our health, threatening our safety, and threatening our livelihoods. I'm concerned by the immense focus that's being put on cultural and social protection, while it seems to me that the committee have highlighted little or no issues within the lack of climate action across the EU. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll take a point from Libe. You're recognized.
Yes, thank you very much, MV2, for your points. My name is Rebecca. I'm from Libe. And you mentioned in your aim that European citizens should not fear climate change. However, to the people who risk losing their homes and safety, isn't fearing climate change the least of their problems? And if anything, don't you think it's quite of a valid emotion?
Thank you very much. Next, we'll take a point from Pesh. You're recognized.
You're muted.
I think you're on mute.
Oh.
Yes, now.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it was lagging. Thank you. I had a question for you because clauses, because you mentioned that European countries are not are mainly focusing on knowledge and raising awareness about safeguarding cultural heritage. Although later you mentioned that there is a lack of actual innovation and that they're not doing as much action to actually protect their cultural heritage. So we found that this is a contradiction, and we will appreciate if you can address that, because in our opinion, they're both equally as important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for the final point in this first round on the aims, we will take a point from Sede, and then we'll go back to the proposing committee. Sede, you're recognized.
Hi, thanks for recognizing me. I just have a point on one of your because clauses. So it says that cultural heritage is not integrated in member states' national adaptation strategies, but a quick Google search has shown me for the first 3 countries I came across in their publicized national adaptation strategies, this is incorporated in at least 3 of them that I came across already. So if you could just clarify that and maybe change it to not all member states instead of all. Thanks.
So thank you to everyone for this first round on the aim and the because clauses of the resolution. NV2, are you ready to respond to this first round of debate?
Can we take 30 seconds to gather our thoughts?
Sure. So you'll have 30 seconds. When you're ready, raise your hand. NV2, you're recognized.
So thank you very much for your comments. Starting by NV1, Emma, you talked once again about the fear, and Libe talked as well, but We put the fear in our aim because we thought that fear is one of the points we need to tackle, not because we can make people not fear. That's impossible, especially in the case of a natural disaster. We only want to make measures that can make them live at least a bit comfortable. So the point in the aim is to make them not fear in a way that they can feel safe, at least a little bit, if you can understand. I'll go directly to the third one, which is patch. And you were talking about knowledge and raising awareness, and how that we thought that we should mention that. I don't know if I'm responding correctly to your question, but the fact is most measures are focused on knowledge and raising awareness. It's obvious that that's important, but when it comes to safeguard the city or the people itself, raising awareness won't save them. You need physical measures to actually protect them. So that's why we have two contradictory because, so yeah. And the fourth point from SETI, which is about cultural heritage not being inside the national strategy adaptation, we actually looked into it, and the national strategy adaptation doesn't include cultural heritage, but there is a framework that is related to that. The point is that there is no measures that actually protect cultural heritage. So that's our point in saying that there should be cultural heritage included in the national strategy adaptation, so that measures are implemented to protect it. And I think that's all.
Thank you very much. So I forgot to mention that we will try to limit responses to open rounds of debate to around 1 minute. So in the future, I'll tap the microphone around 10 seconds before so that you can conclude. So now we wrapped up the first part of the debate about the aim of the resolution, and we're moving on to the policy proposals. So if the proposing committee is ready, they have 2 minutes to present their policy proposals. NV2, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
You're recognized.
Dear Mr. President, honorable members of the board, distinguished guests, and fellow delegates, there is nothing you can do about the past, but you have all the tools to change the future. That's exactly what our committee expert said. And aside from valuable advice for anyone in a toxic relationship, this is also very much the main idea behind our policy proposals. We can't aim for just one solution that fits all cases. Here you may find many preventative measures: risk shelters, floodgates, training volunteers for disaster risks, using CINEA to harness the power of satellite monitoring, machine learning, researching the niche sides to our topics such as cultural heritage before we actually implement definitive measures. However, our goal can be best reflected in the localized relocation strategy for the environmentally displaced, a long-term plan for an inevitable situation. It is done in a way that considers the need for each community to actually have a plan, sets up centers that will ensure that citizens have ownership over their decisions, and ultimately leads to creating new climate-resilient community spaces. Same for the cultural heritage relocation strategy, which ensures everything will be done in a manner that is not financially or culturally threatening to member states, and when political will does not exist, at least documentation of culture will be provided to preserve it. As mentioned, this is a matter of resources and lack of political will just as much as it is an environmental issue. We also ensure member states can benefit from mechanisms in place more efficiently in terms of information, economic relief, expertise they might not have access to. Thus, we refer to broadening and boosting climate adapt and immediately reporting what's happening in the EU for climate disasters. Finally, documenting such financial losses, all towards including citizens and activists' voices and pressuring those in governance to take action. In the same vein, we talk about bridging the time gap between risk discovery and informing the public through a common communication framework to prevent convulsive reactions. Lastly, we talk about renaturalization, so turning climate risks into viable environments. This is largely considered to be one of the most impactful yet less interfering solutions to the matter by the scientific community. We hope that you will join us in this initiative, consider the many levels of planning behind our resolution. Of course, we always welcome your constructive criticism. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you for this perfectly timed speech and a great example of presenting the clauses without reading them out. So it's the first time we're doing this exercise, so a very great example to start with. And we begin the second round of open debate focusing on the policy proposals. And it's very exciting to see new committees entering into the debate. So we're going to begin with the points by Econ 2, followed by Econ 3. So Econ 2, you're recognized.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to first of all congratulate the committee on their great resolution, but there is a certain issue that personally I had. Seeing that most climate disasters occur from climate change, and the biggest polluters in the world are not even in Europe and from other countries, other regions. For example, China, who has 30% of the world's carbon CO2 emissions. Now, I would have expected from the resolution for there to be a clause in which there would be open diplomatic agreements or at least discussions with countries like these in order to mitigate these from happening. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to find this. So I believe that the resolution is actually missing out on such an important part.
Thank you for this constructive point. Next, we're going to Econ 3. You're recognized.
Drawing your attention to clause 4, you talk about asking European countries to build disaster shelter reliefs. However, how are you planning to accomplish this, since there is a lack of political will, as stated, to act upon a developed national adaptation strategy?
Thank you very much. We'll next take a point from Econ 1. That way we have the whole Econ trio represented.
Thank you for the recognition. I would like to point your attention to point number 5. You just stated while presenting your policy proposal that financial and economic damage will not be done to the communities whose cultural heritage, and I read, objects that can be easily moved are supposed to be put into a national archive in each member state to host these culturally significant objects. But how is that possible? Like, how is it feasible not to cause financial damages to communities whose statues or paintings or easily movable objects are taken out of the community? Like, money is not going to flow in those communities if people don't or can't go in those museums or can't visit those communities. How do you think to cope with the political backlash that these communities will most likely put into being for not having the money they usually had? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for the final point on this second round of debate, we will go to NV1. You're recognized.
Thank you so much. So I actually have a question concerning your resolution number 2. You have written that you invite member states to adopt their monuments and landmarks in line with European Framework for Action on Cultural Heritage. And after doing some research, I've found out that European Framework for Action or Cultural Heritage cooperates with Council of Europe and UNESCO. But the problem here that I see is that there are so many historical sites that aren't really included in their protection lists. So I'm asking, what are you going to do about to ensure the safety of those historical sites which stay out of their lists? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the second round of debate on the policy proposals centered around clauses 2, 4, and 5. So several questions asking about how you're going to protect physical cultural heritage, and also a question on international cooperation and how you intend to improve international cooperation for climate change adaptation. NV2, are you ready to respond to the second round of open debate?
Can we take 20 seconds to prepare?
Sure, but you can already raise your hand and then just unmute yourself when you're ready.
Thank you for the recognition. I am Philip from NV2 committee, and I would like to thank you all for all those very important points you've made out. But I think it needs to be cleared out and sort out some sort of things. First of all, our committee is not aiming to deal and mitigate climate change, but to deal with the natural disasters threatening the cultural heritage. Answering the point made by Econ 2 committee, sorry. and as well answering the Econ 3 committee about the OC number 4, building disaster shelters. We cannot integrate, and we do not have the competence to be involved within the member states. However, we have finance and economic measures proposed to deal with such problems, to deal with such matter as building the building of disaster shelter reliefs, and as well, moving the heritage does not mean destroying the heritage. It does not mean really making the money flow out of the city. We are trying, and we have the propositions, the economic propositions to deal with such measures. We are presenting some frameworks on how to do it, and we are suggesting the member states, suggesting the cities to be involved within the decision making. That's why we are putting such pressure on democratic and participatory environment, so that everyone can be heard.
Please conclude.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And also, adapting line does not mean that something is not recognized officially, will not be managed. In line means it will be done in such a way just that it will ensure the best possible outcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for these responses to these points. We're now moving on to the third round of open debate. And we would like to encourage Colt and Itre to join the conversation. So we'll begin this round with a point by Reggie, followed by Pesh. Reggie, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. So firstly, I'd like to say that what Philip just stated there about a democratic participatory environment, I assume he's referring to clause 9. Clause 8, where national policy makers to consider the input of communities. Do you not think this already occurs? Like there are massive natural disasters occurring across Europe at a constant and reoccurring rate, and there's following these disasters there is a public outcry. However, preventative initiatives tend to achieve little to properly protect the people. The point is that you need to create an official structure for these complaints to actually be funneled to policymakers. If it is just an idle outcry, as stated here, just to consider the input, policymakers quite easily say, we have considered it and we do not believe it to be it does not justify a necessary action. You claimed in your aim that you would create a democratic process, and you failed to do that completely. And so I will ask, do you have what is your policy on this? Can you reiterate maybe a different point, or do something to actually help these people voice their opinions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're very excited to see many placards raised. Next, as promised, we'll take a point from Pesh. You're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing me. I would like to bring attention to policy proposal number 2, where it states that it invites member states to adapt their monuments. I would question how this would be done without destroying or at least affecting the appearance of these monuments. For example, statues. How do you plan to adapt them without placing something in front of it that will disrupt the view of the statue, or having to interfere with the actual composition of the statue? And likewise for art pieces and other monuments with historical significance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next, we're welcoming Itre to the debate. Itre, you're recognized.
Hi. So yeah, I just want to move down a bit and bring your attention to a policy proposal 10 part C. You say that you want to include real-time information and news on natural disasters as well as emergency responses to educate the general public and encourage action. I don't see how this is very relevant, because I know whenever there is a natural disaster somewhere in the world, especially something that's really big, for example, the Australian fires last year, like there's round-the-clock coverage on a lot of news channels. There's a lot of open information about the progression of the fires. I'm just using this as an example, but it relates to any natural disaster, really. So I just don't see how this is relevant, because I feel like when there is a natural disaster occurring, it is absolutely spread on every news platform. A lot of awareness is raised, a lot of funding is raised. So I just don't see how this is relevant, because I feel like it's implemented already.
Thank you very much. And the last point of this third round of debate will come from Econ 1. You're recognized.
Thank you for the floor, dear President. I had an issue regarding policy proposal number 1. You basically say that you invite these European countries to engage more actively, but I don't think just an invitation on being more active would do that, because this mechanism has been established in 2001, and the countries have had enough time to be active on it. So I think they've had their reasons, rather their reasons being really selfish for not actively being engaged. So I think this policy proposal is pretty vague, and it wouldn't do it by our side. I think something more specific should have been on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So as promised, we'll go back to the proposing committee to respond to this third round of debate that brought in new points to the debate. In particular, there were a question on how to ensure that the proper democratic participation in this process. Also, a question on the implementation of clause number 1, how this can be more ensured. The relevance of clause 10C, so why is real-time information relevant in this topic? And finally, another question on how art pieces and monuments will be effectively protected. NV2, you're recognized to respond to this third round of open debate.
Thank you for the recognition. First of all, I would like to start off with a point made by the Regi Committee. So we try to have people involved and put up structures. But yeah, the national adaptation strategies are national legislation. So as the EU, we cannot intervene in that. So this was really the most we could do, considering our resolution. Then for the point made by Pesh, the changes to the national heritage would happen in a centralized way, but it would still be up to the member states. So we offer varied solutions and not explicitly include measures they could do. And also these changes to the national heritage would be in collaboration with historians and experts on the topic, so that the value of the heritage stays the same. Then for the point made by ITRE about the real-time info. So first of all, it is partly aimed for scientific information flow, so as to share knowledge and take measures in advance before people get in danger and have to risk their lives. And also we want to share the live news in an EU-based way, so that it's discussed within political structures and people have immediate access, and awareness is actually objective. So it's not just selective based on, it's not selective.
Thank you. Please conclude.
So yeah, that's about it.
Okay,
so
good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're now entering our last round of open debate, and no committee so far have used their direct responses. So we do encourage you to use the direct responses. This also goes to the proposing committee. So I'll keep my eyes out on the chat in case this happens in this last round of open debate. So we will kick off this final round, starting with NV1, followed by Econ 2. So NV1, you're recognized.
Hello, everyone. So looking at policy proposal number 15, I would like to stress that after all, biodiversity is a very delicate affair. So I would like to know details as to how the proposing committee aims to renaturalize the flora and fauna of these areas without exactly as they were before, because I understand that even if there is even a small change in this biodiversity, it will result in further soil erosion and the further damaging of the natural landscape that will even worsen the impact of natural disasters.
Thank you so much for bringing up a new point in this debate. We will continue with Econ 2. You're recognized.
Hi, I'd like to focus on the policy proposal number 9 that talks about the volunteering body. This kind of worries me because a lot of communities, especially tight communities, don't really like help from the government. And I think that any pressure from the outside could result in actually worsening the conditions. So I think maybe helping the communities then and have the skills to help themselves would be a better option. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this constructive point. Next, we will get a point from Libe. You're recognized.
I would like to thank and admire trying to cover so many topics in this resolution. However, I think some of them are a tad unfortunate. Directing your attention to OC 14, encouraging European countries, therefore member states, to create flood plans. If European countries or member states themselves create these plans, again, themselves, this might result in by accident, not helping the situation, as one country will build something that will result in worsening the condition in another country. Therefore, shouldn't there be more collaboration in this sense?
Thank you very much. The following point will come from Colt. You're recognized.
Okay, thank you for recognition. I actually also wanted to comment on OC9, which was just brought up by a fellow delegate. I'm wondering if you could elaborate on the trainerships that the member states would propose for the volunteering body, because you do mention train to physically and mentally support the populations, but well, I'm not sure if I understand what that means. Would that physically, would that mean providing them with homes? Would that mean helping rebuilding? What exactly would that consist of? And also, as the fellow delegate mentioned, communities are not always looking forward to receiving help from the governments. So I would encourage maybe more transparency on what this volunteering body is doing and why and how it was trained and what is its purpose, both for the communities and both for the people well, reading the policies and acting on it, and the governments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcoming Colt to the debate. So the very, very last point of this first GA will go to ITRE. You're recognized.
Thank you so much for your recognition, and I would like to bring up the point number 15A, restoring the biodiversity loss, which is obviously an important issue. However, I would like to mention that there is already an existing EU biodiversity strategy for 2030, so which is obviously a cohesive plan. So would you like to either build up on that strategy or introduce something new? Yeah, I would be happy if you would elaborate on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we wrapped up the last round of open debate on the policy proposals, where we had new points brought in particular considering the protection of biodiversity, and also on how to support communities and how communities can support themselves and how maybe they might react to outside intervention. So the committee has a few seconds to gather their thoughts, and then NV2 will go back to you for a response on this final round of open debate. I apologize. I think my Teams was lagging a little bit. So NV2, right before we go back to you, we're going to take a direct response from Sede. So very excited to take the first direct response of this debate. So Sede, you're recognized for your direct response, so it has to relate to the last point made on biodiversity protection.
Yeah, so thanks for recognizing me on this. And I think the point related directly to how the biodiversity protection is already instilled in, like, the European Union already has a strategy on this, so they were asking to expand, like, how you are, like, working with that, so you're not just establishing something, you're expanding it. So I would like to also ask you to change establish to expand in OC6, as there are already 4 different funding programs within the multinational financial framework in terms of this, and we don't need another one, so you can just expand on them because they're already in Horizon 2020, the Regional Development Fund. There's so many that specify in the 5 areas of continued action that a society for safeguarding cultural heritage. So I would just like to point that out, that it makes me doubt the research done. The delegate made this point that these things already exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much for adding on this last point. And now it really has been the very, very last point of this open debate. And when NV2 is ready, they can respond to this last round.
Yes, we are. Cool. Okay, so thank you all so much for your many points. I will start from the last one. We would like to thank you for making such a constructive point, first of all, and we are aware of such funding opportunities. However, we're not talking about creating a new program per se. We're talking about a general strategy and attitude that should be in place while we're achieving our aim, and in the meantime, also recovering biodiversity. And what's different in this case is that we're talking about such vulnerable areas. We're talking about climate risks specifically. We're not talking about biodiversity in the EU generally. That, first of all, makes a difference. Apart from that, what we mean with what we mean with biodiversity is renaturalizing with planting trees, for example, so as to make territories more stable, avoid landslides, creating rivers from the start again. And although I understand how this may be considered something that has a lot of interference to it, actually it is, like, generally recognized as one of the things that policymakers should strive for more often, because it is actually the one with the least interference and the one that actually has the best possible results long term. Apart from that, we talked a little bit about outsiders' help. Although I do understand the rationale behind this, I think that a topic like ours is truly in its heart about international cooperation, and the other way to approach this would be not providing it and having member states to act on it individually with a lack of resources and a lack of will. It is very much understandable that in some cases they might be a bit skeptical about having outsider help. However, it is also very much a life or death situation, so we would like to believe that communities are going to be welcoming to it. And when we are referring to it, we're referring to training people who might have been exposed to risks or have are willing generally to take up some knowledge on it. So it is an act of active citizenship. It is something about providing both physical and mental help and actually reestablishing communities and making sure that they are viable long term.
Thank you so much. Please conclude and then, okay, quickly.
Okay, thank you. Very last thing, when we're talking about flood plans, again, there is a scientific community behind them. It is not something that just happens out of nowhere. And the way we manage to do this is by talking so extensively about international collaboration and democratic participation, specifically through Climate Adapt and including more voices to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So now we've rounded up open debate, and the next point is we're going to take a 5-minute break where the proposing committee will go to their own committee room and discuss whether or not they would like to make one amendment to the resolution. It's optional, they do not need to, and they can only change one thing. So either add one clause, delete one clause, or edit one clause. During these 5 minutes, maximum 5 minutes, the rest of us will stay here. We encourage you to read through the resolution again and start thinking about how you would like to vote, both on the aim and then on the policy proposals. So NV2, your time starts now. So you can leave this call, go into a call on your own, and then join back this call. And while we are waiting, we have a very exciting new addition. We thought it would be nice to put a bit of music during these 5 minutes. And one of our very own chairpersons is himself a musician, Ilya from Committee Cult. So we will be listening to his music while we're waiting for NV2 to discuss their amendment, their possible amendment. So when NV2 is back, if they can raise their hands when they're ready for their summation speech. Excellent. So NV2, I have been told that you have no amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
Excellent. So you're recognized for your summation speech. You have 3 minutes, and we will tap the microphone when you have 30 seconds left. NV2, we cannot hear you.
Yes, sorry. My Teams was still loading from the other breakout room.
No problem. You're recognized for your summation speech.
Thank you for the recognition, first of all. Dear Mrs. President, honorable members of the board, distinguished guests, and fellow delegates. Last Friday, I was doing some research on our topic, and it was only then when I realized how pressing our issue was. Natural disasters are not only a threat to humans and nature, but also to our cultural heritage. As a committee, we were alarmed by the statistics. There are already 10 times as many natural disasters right now as in 1960. Beautiful, historical cities like Venice are in danger of flooding. Thousands of farmers are dealing with increasing drought. The thought of hundreds of thousands of Europeans being displaced due to extreme weather and natural disasters utterly horrified us. The lack of political will and engagement on this matter only further scared us. Of course, statistics are often a bit impersonal and can feel superficial. So let's take this to a more personal level. I read this story about a Spanish goat herd, Alvaro Garcia Rio Miranda. He was only 30 years old and had just started working. But after less than a year, a devastating wildfire struck in his region. He ran with his goats for 4 days, but wasn't able to save them. Half of his herd was burned alive. Not being able to sustain himself anymore, he had to sell the rest of his goats and move abroad to find a different job. Stories like this one show how this problem often affects the young and those who don't have a lot of funds. If we do not act right now, and to be honest, we are already behind on schedule, we are at risk of endangering the lives of our European citizens and losing beautiful, fascinating heritage. And it's this history that's so important for future generations. Because like the great Martin Luther King Jr. once said, we are not makers of history, we are made by history. Our heritage is there to learn from, to admire, and to enjoy. With our policy proposals of international collaboration and natural disaster awareness, we are sure that we can ensure safety for both our people and our heritage. This is why I'm calling on you all to vote in favor of our resolution, so that under the motto of rethinking today, shaping tomorrow, we can save Europe, both its past and its future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this moving speech. We're now moving along to the voting procedure. So we're having 2 votes. The first one is only on the aim, and then the second one is on the policy proposals. So please, everybody, take a few seconds to think about the aim of the resolution, the whole debate, how the proposing committee responded to all of your points. I'll put the poll in now, and you'll have 1 minute to respond. So please, only delegates now voting in the poll for the aim of the resolution. As a reminder, the proposing committee also votes. Ten more seconds to vote. So this is your last chance, if you haven't decided yet, to submit your vote, and then we're closing the voting in 3, 2, 1. Okay, the results are in. And we're very happy to say that with 43 votes in favor, 25 against, and 8 abstaining, the aim of the resolution has passed. So we're moving on to the vote on the policy proposals. So think about it for a few seconds while I send the poll. And again, you'll have 1 minute to submit your votes. So already think about what you want to vote. Here we go, 1 minute. Okay, a few seconds left. Whoa, well, everybody's already voted now, so that's a lot faster. And so I'm going to close the vote now. Since we had 70 votes in the, 74, sorry. So I'll wait till we get to, now we're at 75. Okay, so somebody voted on the policy proposals, forgot to vote before. So we're going to close the poll and the results are in. And we're very, very happy to congratulate NV2 committee with 47 votes in favor, 22 against, and 7 abstentions. The policy proposals have also passed. Congratulations, NV2, on opening this GA, on being the very first debate with the new structure. Thank you all for your collaboration on this debate. I think it went really smoothly. It was really interesting to hear your points. And once again, congratulations to NV2 for your resolution, for your defense of the resolution, and for passing. So now we're going to take, let's just all unmute ourselves and have a little clap, because so that they can hear the congratulations from everyone. Thank you very much. So now we're going to have a 5-minute break before the next debate, and I'm going to make a very before the 5-minute break, because I mentioned it before, but then I forgot, we're going to take a picture. So can I have a media team member lead us through the process? And I would suggest if we can take both, one in a general view with all the videos and then also one in together mode. So who from the media team would like to direct us?
I can jump in? Oh,
yes.
But Marichka is also here. Go, Marichka.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. First of all, congrats. This is so nice. Okay, so if anyone who wants to turn on their camera could turn on their camera, that would be very nice. And hold on for a second. So I will do a few with the large gallery, and then we will do also with together mode. Okay, smile for the camera. And okay, and now let's change the view. Okay, again, 1, 2, 3. You can, I don't know, show something, say hello, I don't know, anything. Perfect, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So another really quick announcement, it was in the chat. Please do not change the scene in together mode, because if you change it, it changes it for everyone. So we very carefully selected the one that we felt the most appropriate for this occasion. So please do not change the scene in together mode. And then we have a little activity for you during this first 5-minute break. And for this, I'm going to hand it off to Jeroen, the editor, to explain what it is.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca. Congratulations, everyone, on the first GA in a new format, the first digital ISGA as well, first digital ISGA debate. I'm going to make this quick so that I can send you on your break. You may have already seen this in the chats on Teams, but I wanted to announce to all of you here as well. We're making a session video for the session. which is just a collection of all the wonderful things that happened and something to look back at all the fantastic things that we had at this session. However, due to the digital format, it's difficult for us to film that all on our own, so we need your help for this. The theme of this video is Milano is not digital, Milano is everywhere. It's in your bedroom, it's in our apartment, it's in someone's park where they were doing committee work, it's in the kitchen where you were cooking the Italian food and all that. So what I would like to ask you to do is to, in this break, and if you have a moment in the other breaks as well, whenever you find some time, is to take a short video of yourself just showing us a bit of how you experienced Milano. It can be all kinds of things. It can be you doing your hobby. It can be what your home office looked like. It can be your pets. We love to see pets. It can be you sharpening your knives. It can be really anything you want that just shows how you experienced the session. I'm putting a link in the chat where you can upload it. Please feel free to upload as many clips as you want or feel like. The more we have, the better session video I can make. That's it. If you have any more questions, talk to your media team member or come to me. I'm going to send you on your break now. Enjoy and have a good rest of GA.
Thank you so much, Jeroen. We're really looking forward to those videos. So one last announcement, we noticed there was a little typo in the program. As a reminder, the afternoon, all the things start at 30 past. So you have 1.5 hours for lunch break. So instead of starting again at 2 p.m., we're starting at 2:30 p.m. and everything is 30 minutes later. So now we're going to give you a full 5-minute break. So we're starting at 11:05 sharp. Have a good break.
Okay, 1 minute left till the end of break time. Okay, Kulia, I guess we can start. I hope you had a lovely 5 minute break. So the next resolution is a motion for resolution by the Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs. We can start the debate with the context piece. So yes, can someone share the context piece? It might take a bit of time. The Orga team, are you going to share the context piece? Okay, I'll just move on to the reading the topic, and then we can move on to the context piece because of technical issues. So the topic reads as follows: work with me. Seeing that the complex issues contained in the Agenda 2030 are systemic issues that can only be addressed by collaboration between actors from all sectors, how could increase participation and collaborative governance models be leveraged to improve policy outcomes and accelerated progress? I will ask Julia if the context piece is ready. If not, I'll move on to silent time. It is ready? Okay.
Julia, we can't hear the sound. Can you maybe try sharing again with the sound on?
We have a problem. We have not been meeting the Sustainable Development Goals and people are starting to notice. Do you see this? We need to work together. Your first step into this is knowing what you are not able to do. Then we can start sharing the best policies and practices with others and save this sinking company.
Our aims, they revolve around 4 pillars. The first is about aligning priorities of all stakeholders involved in this process of the implementation of the agenda. The second pillar that refer to our aims is the inclusion of civil society organizations in the decision-making process. The third aim has to do with data gathering and transparency. And the fourth and final aim is basically leaving no one behind.
So the main idea of our committee is that there are some problems and issues contained in the Agenda 2030, and how could increased participation in collaborative governance models be leveraged to improve policy outcomes and more speed up this process. The start of writing committee work was really hard. First of all, it was the new format of writing resolutions, and we were all getting tired really easily. But I think if something was really difficult, we were just smiling, laughing at each other, and we were feeling the chemistry between us, and it was really great.
After the first shock, let's say, about the amount of ideas, we kind of realized that we have to be clear and concise on what we want and how we want to achieve that. Because if you overcomplicate things and if you go into too much detail about everything, then you're kind of missing the essence of your point. It was the nature of our topic itself, because our topic doesn't have to do with a specific goal, like, for example, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Our question was about how to create a better system that can involve everyone and that can help us achieve the SDGs. So because that is a very general thing, and we can have a lot of things that relate to that, so everyone can have like a different idea on how to create this system. I think that is what made it difficult.
We had some kind of difficulties and debates throughout the writing committee work, but how I said, with all the smiling, with all the jokes, we overcome these all difficulties together.
Amazing. So now we shall move on to the proposition speech. So is the proposing committee ready to deliver the proposition speech? If yes, please raise your team's hand. Liebe, you're recognized. You have 3 minutes.
Distinguished guests, honorable members of the board, Mr. Vice President, fellow delegates. I believe I can safely assume we all agree that implementing the SDGs contained in Agenda 2030 is vital for securing a better future for our world. Each of you had just spent countless hours working towards a proposal of a specific SDG. I'm certain that even though all the proposals are of the highest quality, the question, how are you going to implement that, is going to be thrown around a lot. That is when Sustainable Development Goal 17 comes into play. At the moment, the priorities of signatories of the agenda are very different. Each member state, depending on their historical and cultural background and political and economic setting, prioritizes different SDGs, with some countries, even though signing the agenda, not even attempting to implement any of them. Back to that big question, how are you going to implement that? The simple answer is, we need to unify these priorities. But that is quite utopian. With around half of my time left, let me try to develop that idea. Firstly, you might argue that some stakeholders might want to implement the SDGs, but due to the lack of resources or a functioning legal system, they simply cannot. We therefore need to support these, providing a common starting ground for everybody. Next, we need to be able to hold stakeholders accountable. Please excuse me for being somewhat rude, but the current reporting system just simply doesn't work. Reports are being compiled by the member states themselves without any third-party check. Transparency, non-existent. Lastly, even if everybody had the resources and they were held accountable, the current governance model is just ineffective. The ability of civil society organizations to take part in the decision-making process is nowhere to be found. Active citizens via CSOs are the ones that in the end fight for a cause the most. When governments fail, it's CSOs that step up. Right now, they can only spread awareness. But if they could step up and help finish the job, isn't that in the end what we want? Wrapping up, I assume you are all waiting for me to say that SDG 17 is the most important goal. And here you go. SDG 17 is the most important goal. Without SDG 17, no other SDG matters. So I call upon you. Please help us fix the governance model that is in place right now. Help us rethink today and help us shape tomorrow. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Lipe, for this well-timed speech. With that said, we shall move on to the opposition speeches. So can the chairs raise their hand if they have any opposition speeches? I see. What do I see? Technical issues. We should be fine. I see. Econ, we're going to start off by recognizing Econ 2, followed by NV2. You're recognized. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you for recognizing me. Dear President, Board, Delegates, and others. Although I appreciate the work done by the Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs and all the time they put in the topic, I have some comments to make about the aim statement and want to point out some possible problems. It already starts with the first sentence of the aim statement, as it is not clear what is meant with the priorities. Does it mean the priority?
Karim, we can't hear you clearly. Can you try and fix your mic? Try and speak closer to the mic. I mean, your way.
Is it now better?
Yeah, it's a bit better. Go for it. Thank you.
It already starts with the first sentence of the aim statement, as it is not clear what is meant with the priorities. Does it mean the priority of how important certain SDGs are, or is it the priority of what issue each country should tackle first? Because it is not the same. While one is about what is more important in general, the other one is about what is most important for each nation independently. I think both matter, but I do not understand why we should align all of them. Of course, it is important that the general priorities are the same, but aligning also the priorities of each country is inefficient, unclear, and deeply problematic. In some countries, unemployment is one of the biggest problems, and in others, it is gender inequality. Each country is different, has different problems and different needs. Therefore, they also should not have the same priorities. You elaborate on this in your because clauses. Your 5th point, starting with public opinion, points out that education and the media influence prioritization. I understand the problem, but what is the alternative? There is one realistic reaction to stop this. Regulations in media, education, and advertising. I see that it is a problem, but if we as a parliament recognize it as one, would that mean we justify cutting into what a newspaper, for example, can say? Does it mean allowing the use of propaganda? The proposal might does not want to implement such measures, but if I would vote in favor of this aim statement and the because clauses, I do not see why this cannot be abused in the future to justify and implement problematic measures like propaganda and press censorship. I'm fully aware that this is not your goal, and that is also the problem, as the aim statement then also is not your goal. Thank you very much for your time and the possibility to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Kuntu. Yeah, it seems that NV doesn't have a speech, so I guess we can recognize Itre. Itre, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm getting Microsoft Teams notifications. So, okay. Hold on, sorry. So I just wanted to firstly, sorry, 1 minute. You're kind of glitching. Okay, can you guys hear me? Sorry, okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Sorry, so honourable board, distinguished guests and fellow delegates, I just wanted to firstly congratulate Libe on a resolution I think is clear that they worked incredibly hard on and put a lot of time and effort into. I do have a number of issues, but I'd like to start off on a positive note, and I want to commend the committee on addressing such a broad range of issues that arise under this topic. Your means of addressing problems surrounding accountability and transparency, integration of CSOs, and your recognition of how the Agenda 2030 is in fact voluntary, I think is commendable. However, while there are positives, there are also negatives. Your aim fails to prioritize finding a concrete means to accelerate progress and improve policy outcomes, which at the end of the day is the end goal. I know it can be argued that this would be a result of further collaboration with stakeholders, but we've seen failed historical alliances in the past. I feel a failure to prioritize what these collaborations can achieve will make the work put into helping the teams be made in the first place essentially will make it a waste of time. So yeah, just wanted to commend you on the broad range of issues, but I do have a number of issues regarding your lack of addressing how you're going to address that in your aim. So thank you.
Thank you, Itre, for this well-timed speech. Is Liebe ready to respond to the opposition speeches? If yes, please raise your team's hand. Yes, I see you, Realdo. You're recognized.
Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Distinguished members of the board, distinguished guests, and fellow delegates, I would first like to respond to the comment that the general priorities are all the same. But the fact is, the general priorities of all nations are not the same, and that is the problem. They can prioritize individual SDGs within their countries, but at the moment, there's countries that are not prioritizing the SDGs at all. And the media, the lack of education and education in the media is the problem. We don't want to change or censor what the media is saying, but we need to have equal access of information in order for everybody to act on the SDGs in a fair manner. Furthermore, the comment on our acceleration, if you look at all of our OCs, these are all aiming to accelerate the progress of the implementing of the SDGs. Take the CSOs, for example. By streamlining their contribution to the policymaking progress, this will allow for policies to be faster implemented as they are more in touch with citizens, and streamlining the entire progress through collaboration, which we've outlined in our OCs, will accelerate the progress towards everything. I hope that's addressed everyone's issues. Thank you.
Brilliant. That's a well-timed response. Thank you so much, Liebe. So with that said, we shall open the first round of open debate focusing on the aims of Liebe's resolution. So we're going to start off by recognizing Econ 2. Econ 2, you're recognized.
Thank you. I have a question about the sentence, the last sentence of the aim statement, as it states that all countries should have the same possibilities to achieve sustainable development. And as you state later in the causes, it's not really doable, it's not really realistic. And I'm kind of wondering, how do you manage to connect the ideas of the same possibilities to achieve, but also different resources and different goals and different levels in the sustainable development in different countries? Thank you.
Thank you, Econ 2. Next point will go to Econ 1. You're recognized.
Thank you for recognition. We would like to raise awareness regarding a because clause. One stating that public opinion influenced by media and education is a major factor in the prioritization of the SDGs. Of course it is, but isn't the media always focused on short-term goals? Aren't they focused on what's happening right now, not what's happening in 50 years from now? And the whole point of the SDGs is to create a framework that would be sustainable for Europe in the next 30, 50 years. And also, I urge you to reconsider the role of media and public opinion in this topic because should it play this big of a role in influencing what the EU decides to do in the long run? Should an institution like the European Union be damaged by local magazines or publications that just state negative opinion and that can be against the SDGs? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Econ, just make sure moving forward, keep it 1 point at a time, mainly because of time constraints, but thank you nonetheless. Next point, we'll go to Sede, followed by Itre.
Okay, thank you for the recognition. Andre from SEDA here. Hope you can hear me fine.
Sorry, Sede, I see there's a direct response from Colt. Colt, you recognize.
Yes, thank you. This is directly addressed to the issue of media. I'm afraid that putting the because clause of public opinion influencing policies, I'm afraid that stating this as a problem would imply that public opinion is not important and it diminishes its value. And I'm afraid it's kind of following up the OC, which I know we're not supposed to do now, but wouldn't that decrease individual citizens' participant in engagement, saying that their opinion is not that important as you state in your because clause?
Thank you, Colt. As promised, we're going back to Sede. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, thank you. So as I noticed in your resolution, you state that the Agenda 2030 is voluntary, and you mentioned wanting to motivate some member states which might be struggling to implement parts of Agenda 2030. On the other hand, you talk about creating a task force holding sovereign member states accountable for a voluntary agenda. I can't help but see a discrepancy here, so whether you could elaborate on this and perhaps explain to me how you mean holding people accountable on a voluntary agenda, or whether you want to make this agenda for sovereign member states not voluntary. Thank you.
Thank you. Liebe, I just saw your direct response. Is it related to SEDES or not anymore?
We can continue.
Okay, but okay, now I see a response from NV, a direct response from NV1. Is that related to SEDES point?
I believe it is. I would like to build up on what the fellow delegate just said on being accountable for a voluntary agreement. Member states do not face repercussions, not because they enter voluntarily, but because a legal framework that would make them accountable does not exist. It does not exist because member states do not want to limit their sovereignty and have the UN say to them what they have to do. And that's because they cannot be held accountable, not because they enter voluntarily, but because a legal framework does not exist and most likely will never exist because states do not want to limit their sovereignty too much. And on top of that, you stated clearly that there are states who really want to prioritize other political actions instead of these SDGs. How do you think those states who do not prioritize these SDGs will act if they're asked to put themselves in a position where the UN can tell them what to do? Do you think they'll agree? I don't really think so.
Great. Okay, I see NV1 having a direct response. Is that correct or not?
Thank you for the recognition. Yeah, I wanted to do a direct response. One about the third because clause, which was about the fact that the 2030 commitment is voluntary, and they are implying that they want to make signatory countries face legal repercussions, and I think that that's not the right way to go about it, since a lot of the stuff has changed in the world. For example, the global pandemic which struck, which changed a lot of the things in different countries, which leads to them having less resources, less skills than, for example, other countries which have which are less affected, and which is something that you mentioned in the first because clause, where you state that different countries do have different abilities and resources. And I think that the third because clause doesn't really go well with it, since, as I mentioned, different countries have different resources and they might not be able to face those legal repercussions. Thank you.
Thank you, NV1. Libe, I was anyways gonna go back to you anyways. Do you still want to use your direct response?
Yes, please.
You can, but as you only have one direct response for the whole debate, are you sure?
Yeah, we're sure.
Okay, then you can use a direct response. You recognize.
We just want to acknowledge that us saying that it is not legally binding does not imply we want to bring in legal measures, and also addressing everyone's comments on holding states accountable. We need the public to be able to hold their states accountable. As it is, public don't have equal access to information in order to do that. We're only holding them to their word. We do not want to do it legally, but we need them to be able, we need to have some transparency for a resolution that they have all signed up to.
Okay, thank you, Libe. So, are you also ready to respond to the first round of open debate? If yes, please raise your team's hand and wait till I recognize you. Okay, Libe, I see you, you're recognized.
Okay, thank you for recognition. A few points in my speech. First of all, regarding Icon's point regarding the that it's not really doable to have the same possibilities for each and every member state. If you take a look at OCs 1, 6, 7, and 8, we're trying to create an equal base in order to start development and start implementing the SDGs. We do realize that it can be a bit of a utopia. It is an utopian dream to think that all countries will have the same financial means, social needs. But what we're trying to say is that we need to find the equity in all of this. We need to give them the same possibilities to do something. Regarding the second point made by Econ 1 regarding the public opinion and Coates' direct response, we're not, this because clause doesn't presume that, it doesn't imply that public opinion is not relevant. What this because clause does is that it states that we want to give all of our citizens to give the best that they can, to have access to information, to have right education, for the public opinion to stop being influenced by propaganda and other means, for the media to put outlets on what we really care about and the public opinion really cares about. In no way does it imply that public opinion is not relevant. And the media is not true that isn't focused on short-term goals. You can see our OCs regarding media campaigns, right? What it's focused about is what the public wants to hear. And if we turn the public opinions on the agenda and on the SDGs, that is where we achieve media transparency and the right to information. Regarding the last point about there's a problem that Agenda 2030 is voluntary, we no means want to make it legally binding. What we're saying, even if through our sees about the report system, is that we want to hold them accountable if and when they use wrong information or fail to report accurately using the task force and the means that we give them. Only in that moment we hold them accountable. We do not hold them accountable if they don't want to implement the SDGs. We have other mechanisms and OCs that regard cooperation, but we do hold them accountable if and when they're not reporting right, and if and when they're not reporting correct information. And we think that's fair to assume that we can do that. And that, yeah, that was all.
All done?
Yeah.
Thank you, Libe. With that said, we shall open the second round of debate focusing on the policy proposals of Libe Committee. So the first point of the second round of debate will go to drum rolls. Heli, which committee are you? Give me a second. Okay. Okay, Colt, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. My concern is in relation to OC5. I just have a question. While it's a well-known fact that media campaigns are imperative to raise awareness. The SDGs have already been promoted across Europe in schools and businesses, and they're aware of their benefits of implementing the SDGs. But it's ultimately down to the member states whether or not they decide to promote these SDGs, which will affect the businesses. And my question here is the media campaign directly at public opinion? So is it at EU citizens, or is it to encourage member states to adopt SDGs? Thank you.
Thank you, Colt. I shall next recognize NV2, followed by Pesh.
So thank you, Liebe, for the very comprehensive resolution. I would like to congratulate you personally. One thing that I would like to point out is that although it is truly very comprehensive, I would also spot a lack of measures on tackling lack of will of governmental action. Because yes, improving transparency is important, but we actually need to have action to cover on the matter, and support and report are not the only ways to go about that, because I fear that this is one of the deepest systemic issues and one that has to do with corruption and lack of accountability, and I would really like to see that addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. I see there was a point of personal privilege, but that was, I think, for Colt, is that correct? I take the silence as a no, so I can move on to Pesh. Pesh, you... Okay, Real, there was a point of order.
We haven't introduced the policy proposals yet.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I completely forgot. Yep. So yeah, you can introduce your policy proposals. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry for that. Liebe, you're recognized.
Fellow delegates, distinguished guests, Madam President and members of the board, in our resolution we support 4 key principles: alignment, transparency, engagement and support. We will align member states' prioritization and implementation of the Agenda 2030 through 2 means: by improving the multi-stakeholder platform on SDGs and inviting the European Commission to assemble an expert group for developing integrated and tailored strategies for implementation of the agenda. Transparency is key to trusting a member state's ability to achieve the SDGs. To ensure accurate reporting, we've instructed Eurostat to create a task force which will fact-check annual reports submitted by member states. We will also encourage Eurostat to conduct regular public opinion polling so we can gain better insights into the progress of member states. Thirdly, we intend to increase engagement of civil society organisations and other stakeholders in all stages of the Agenda 2030 implementation, because effective decision-making processes involve those who are directly affected by the issues. A media campaign will incentivise organisations to get involved, then we urge local authorities to include CSOs in their regular conversations. Lastly, to help increase engagement of developed countries, we cause the European Union to offer financial support. A mixture of grassroots and international actions will mean the future of sustainability can be designed by everyone affected. Lastly, we've used a variety of methods to adequately support member states who are struggling to implement the agenda. A permanent platform for cooperation will build a stronger base for transformative national action. We will also call upon the European Commission to help member states manipulate their financial resources to achieve long-term sustainability and help develop long-lasting green energy systems. Our precise yet multifaceted solutions create a resolution that doesn't just ease the implementation of the agenda, but one that supports togetherness as a whole. Because as we heard this morning, to achieve anything meaningful, we must work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Liebe, and again, sorry for forgetting you. We shall go back to the second round of debate, and if I'm not mistaken, it was Pesh's turn. So Pesh, you're recognized.
Thank you for your recognition. I had a point on OC9.
Pesh, we cannot hear you clearly, so it's okay if you take your mask down. So
Can you hear me?
A bit. Can you put your microphone closer?
Okay. So I have a point on OC9. Competitivity and benefits are, for a majority of economic actors and stakeholders, the main interest and are even necessary for some developing countries. Even though raising awareness of citizens and thus clients may push them to adapt or change their positions, how would you cope with entering knowledge and interest sharing while preventing greenwashing? Thank you.
Thank you, Pesh. The next point will go to Econ 3. You're recognized. Econ 3, do you have a point?
Yes, sorry, the technical issues. Regarding clause 10, you talk about improving the digital functioning of the multi-stakeholder platform on SDGs. However, how are you planning to accomplish this? Like, what about the 13% of the world's population that doesn't have access to electricity, never mind any kind of digital platform? How are they going to have access to this initiative and therefore facilitate from it as well?
Thank you, Econ 3. And the last point of the second round of debate will go to Reggie. Reggie, you're recognized.
Reggie's hand isn't up.
I will call point of personal privilege. David, I didn't hear what you said.
Reggie's hand isn't up, I believe.
Okay.
So maybe don't recognize us.
I shall not recognize you. I shall go back to the proposing committee in this case. So yes, Liebe, are you ready to respond?
Yes, thank you. Regarding the points raised before the introduction of the policy proposals, the question was about what are we going to tackle the problem of not having enough political will. Well, we have a lot of OCs tackling with the issue of actually giving the citizens and everyone, the SCSOs, the power to hold their governments accountable. So we are actually giving them the power to go on and help with the implementation of the SDGs in their own countries. And for the next point raised about the 10th OC, in the policy proposal, we are not actually have the first thing about globally, but we are focusing on the European countries in order to start from somewhere and then we can go better and better in the following years. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you, Liebe. I shall open the floor for the third round of open debate, and the first point will go to Itre. Itre, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognition. I would like to point out that in because clauses, you state that the member states do not report on implementation of the SDGs, and then in by clauses, you instruct a task force to fact check their annual reports. So I would like to clarify if the reports exist or no, because clearly there is some kind of contradiction in your resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Itre. Next point will go to NV1, followed by NV2.
Thank you for the floor. If I may draw your attention to clause number 2, I'd like to ask the committee to clarify their intention with this. So while I appreciate the proposed fact-checking, I fail to see any attempt made by the committee to act on the findings of these checks. I don't think it takes a professional to know that states simply aren't doing enough in their implementation of the SDGs. So how does the committee plan on actually using their findings to urge the governments to finally take action?
Brilliant. As promised, we'll move on to NV2. You're recognized.
Thank you for recognition. I have a question regarding on OC number 14. First of all, I have to mention that I support the idea that you have suggested, but how will school students be motivated to learn and gain a knowledge about sustainability? Since motivation is a defining factor that transforms a good idea into basically immediate action, and I'm sure that we and also you guys want them to act now and today rather than, for example, years from now. Thank you.
Thank you, NV2. Next up is Pesh. You're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing me. I want first to congratulate the proposing committee for their comprehensive resolution. Actually, I have a point regarding OC number 7. While it's super great to focus on developing countries, actually in Europe, we don't, even if we don't have developing countries, we still have a gap between East and West in economic power. And I want to ask you, before putting in place your plan for helping developing countries, how you actually plan to resolve this gap between East and West in member states. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final point of this round will go to Colt. You're recognized. Colt?
Yeah, yes, sorry. I actually also have a point regarding OC7, which I really appreciate. I think it's a great OC to focus on developing countries. However, my concern is not as much pointed towards the difference between East and Western Europe, but towards point B, which would offer grants to underfunded CSOs. I'm concerned that this would may perpetuate inequalities, but within developing countries and between their CSOs, both in regards to their financial means and also their political legitimacy, both political and moral, actually, because then there would be CSOs funded by the EU and others that are not. Or would you that would just be asked for clarification? Would you suggest and would you want all CSOs funded by the EU? Thank you.
Thank you, Colt. As promised, we're going back to the proposing committee. Is Libe ready to respond? If yes, you're recognized.
Yes, I'm Alice from Libe. Okay, I want to respond first of all to the first point made by ITRE. Okay, we wanted to say that a report does exist, and it is the SDG report, but this is implemented at the global level, so it has to report globally, and because of that, it could have gaps, and it also could lack accuracy and accountability, and that's why we want to implement another type of report. And the states have to basically submit their reports, and the aim of the task force is to ensure their accountability. And of course, this is only referring to the member states at the European level. So that's the difference between the SDG report and the other one. So then I recall that we had a point about OC14, in which you stated that maybe students could lack motivation. I just wanted to say that the possible subject that could talk about SDG could be transversal in order not to be a burden for students. So they wouldn't have to be motivated to study it, but they would have to be motivated to know about it in a transversal way. And also, I wanted to point out the fact that youngsters have to be educated. So motivation is not the most important thing here. They have to be educated about it in order to be able to engage in the future in all the initiatives. And last point, I recall someone saying something about the underfunded CSOs. We basically want to offer grants to these underfunded CSOs, not in order to widen the divide that it still exists between, CSOs which belong to developed countries and CSOs which belong to undeveloped countries. We only want to give and grant this to give these grants to the underfunded CSO in general, in order to help them to be more active and to be and also to have a say in the decision-making process. And I also recall something about the East and West divide, that we are aware of the fact that it exists, but we are only talking about the undeveloped countries in general. We are not referring to this East and West divide. Okay, this difference that. Okay, sorry. I'll finish. yeah, we are not referring to it. We are only referring to the undeveloped countries, and that is all. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you, Liebe. Now let's move to the final round of open debate. I will be accepting 2 to 3 points for this round, and I will start off with ITRE.
Thank you so much for your recognition. Surprisingly, I also have a point about by clause number 7. It's amazing to support developing countries and give them grants and everything, but I was wondering if there is any mechanisms to make sure that grant money and just in general support will go to sustainable development goals. Because since he already said that some developing countries are not really caring about executing these goals. Thank you so much.
Amazing, thank you, ITRE. Second point of the final round goes to Econ 2. Yeah, recognized.
Thank you for recognizing me. The OCA regarding to is interesting.
Sorry, Econ 2, there's a point of personal privilege. Can you please put the mic closer to your mouth so we can hear you clearly, please?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, clearly. Amazing, go for it.
The OCA I'm regarding to doesn't exist, and that is the problem. You stated that you want to make vulnerable social groups not overlooked in such plans, but you have no policy proposal to actually tackle that problem.
Yes, thank you, Econ 2. The final point of this round of debate will go to Sede. You're recognized.
Thank you very much for recognizing me regarding OC number 11. It refers to creation of a permanent platform for cooperation of local actors. I'm sorry to, I want to remind you that the European Platform of Regional and Local Actors for Development Cooperation has already been established and continues to function under the Interreg program, I believe. Thank you very much.
Amazing, thank you, Sede. Now we're gonna go. We still have time for one more point, I see, and I shall give it to NV1. You're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. So I have something to say about your policy proposal number 13, when you encourage member states to facilitate the participation of youth platforms. So besides being quite easy to manipulate, don't you think that the youth need some kind of an education before being qualified to participate into decision-making processes? Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you, NV1. Now, as promised, we're going back to the proposing committee. Is Liebe ready to respond to the final round? If yes, please raise your team's hand. Liebe, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you to all delegates to this amazing point and questions. Okay, about OC number 7. Is there going to be a problem with money? While writing the OC number 7, we made sure that all the points A, B, C, D, and A, B, C, D, E are together, and we don't think there's going to be a problem, and with all the countries. Next, about OC number 13 on youth platforms or organizations. This is a very important point of our resolution, because the active participation to these youth platforms can help to avoid the issues of Agenda 2030. And also about OC number, sorry. Yes, and about OC number 4.
Can you please conclude?
Yes, this is about OC number 14, about integrating education in the schools. This gonna be a great answer to the problem, because our future is in the schools, and students can possibly make their own solutions by the young age. Thank you.
Thank you. With that said, it's time for Libe 1 to deliberate on whether they have any amendments. So we're going to have a 5-minute music break. Okay. Yeah. Okay, break over. Thank you. Amazing. So it seems that Libe has no amendments. So with that said, we shall move on straight to the summation speech of Libe. So Libe, whenever you're ready, you can start.
Yes, thank you for the recognition. Honorable members of the board, distinguished guests, and fellow delegates. First of all, I would like to wholeheartedly thank each and every one of you who took the time to engage with the debate we just watched. Your comments, feedback, and suggestions were very valuable to us. But before I proceed with the main part of my speech, I would like for you to take a moment and think. Think about yourselves during these days, spending endless hours looking at your screen and trying to come up with aims, because clauses, and policy proposals. Think about yourselves now during the General Assembly, making points and speeches to best defend and represent your work. The reason we are all here is not just our pure motivation to discuss pressing issues. It all started because we were given the opportunity to discuss. Sustainability is a topic that impacts us all, but yet not everyone has a say in discussions that concern it. Important international and non-state actors involved with the agenda are not represented in policy-making processes that can help us make sustainability a reality. Here is where we step in, the Committee on Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs. During our discussions, we tried to come up with ways that can increase participation in those processes I mentioned earlier and help us promote collaboration between all sectors. And I think we achieved it. Our resolution aims towards a system that leaves no one behind, a system that is transparent and allows everyone to align their priorities with the agenda. Our policy proposals are coherent, well-rounded, and detailed enough to help you understand how our aims are going to be reached. Through the involvement of Eurostat in the reporting system, we can manage to monitor the progress of each member state and ensure accountability and transparency. The assembly of an expert group that will provide tailored recommendations to member states regarding the agenda, the creation of independent national government bodies that oversee different ministries, the promotion of the multi-stakeholder platform on SDGs can help us facilitate knowledge sharing and critical discourse. And finally, the technical and financial aid that we plan on offering to underfunded CSOs and developing countries will help us leave no one behind. To conclude, if you want a system that is inclusive, a system that everyone can participate in, and honestly a system that can ensure a sustainable future for our planet, I urge you to vote in favor of our resolution. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Liebe, for this perfectly timed speech. And now it's time to move on to voting. So if I'm not mistaken, Rebecca will activate the poll. Is that correct? Yes, it is. So people, let's vote. We're going to start off with the voting about the aim of the resolution, just to make it clear. Okay, I see 26 submissions. $52 submissions. Yes, I'm here. I can see the results only when the poll closes. So yeah, in 15 seconds.
Votes are being counted, or if
Yeah.
my submitted.
Oh, they're being counted currently, but for me to see the results, Rebecca needs to close the poll.
Sorry, it cut off a bit. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, your point was submitted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, it seems we have some minor technical issues, but we'll be there. Okay, the poll has not yet to close. Okay, Rebecca, can you announce the results? Okay, we have, for the aim, we have 64 in favor, 10 against, and 2 abstentions, which that means that the aim of the resolution of Liebe passes. So now we're going to move on to the policy proposals. So Rebecca will share the poll for that soon in the chat. Great, so you can start voting. I just realized I was muted, sorry. Yes, 2 seconds remaining, and the results are... Okay, so with 4 abstentions, 15 votes against, and 54 votes in favor, it's with great pleasure to announce that the motion of resolution by Liebe has passed. Congratulations, guys. Give them a round of applause.
Great, thank you so much for the second round of debate. So now we're going to take another 5-minute break. So we apologize for being a little bit behind schedule. As you know, this is the beginning of GA, so we're still figuring out all the different elements. So we're taking a 5-minute break, and we'll be back at 12:10 for the final debate before lunch by Econ 3. So take the break to stretch, get a glass of water, and read through the resolution. We'll see you at 12:10.
Also, during break time, it is the perfect time to open up your windows, maybe let some fresh air into your rooms because it gets stuffy. So maybe get some fresh air into your rooms.
Hello, hello. We're hoping that everyone is slowly filing back into the room, wherever that is. I would also like to remind delegates in particular to keep the chat clear from any messages so that the board can see. Yes, that is a good point. So delegates, please keep the chat free, unless of course that is in order to stand in for technical difficulties by the chair. And ready or not, without further ado, we're now moving forward with the resolution or the motion for a resolution by the Committee on Economic and Monetary Affairs, number 3, Econ 3. The topic reads as follows: new money. With a growing number of local complementary currencies, short LCC, implemented across Europe, what can be the role of these currencies in transitioning to a more sustainable economy, and to what extent should authorities support their implementation? In the hopes that the video is ready, I'll pass it on to the topic video.
Julia, can you share again? I can't. Okay, volume is good, thanks.
Electronic or new money detectors definitely didn't help. But now we have local complementary currencies, the ever-increasing number of citizen alternatives of currencies, lack of unity, physically printed banknotes. What could go wrong?
The MMR committee is really complicated, as is the overall theme. We are trying to bring attention and legislation to a place that has none, almost. We're trying to help currencies that are not even considered actual currencies. It's an area that hasn't been explored at all.
In addition to that, we want to ensure the sustainability of these currencies and help the environment also at the same time, and also provide social benefits in the local areas that have these types of currencies. I mean, the journey, I could describe it like a roller coaster.
Although the topic is really complicated from an academic side and a practical side, it was kind of bumpy ride sometimes, not because of disagreements, but because it's just really complicated and hard to solve these kind of problems.
The only issue, let's say, was when we had the committee swaps, the main questions we had was what are LCCs? So not many people are aware of local currencies and what they are.
There wasn't really a hard part, except, sometimes you run out of coffee, sometimes you're tired, sometimes you just stop paying attention for reasons unknown. But apart from that, it was a surprisingly smooth ride when you compare it to the topic, which again, is complicated as well sometimes.
Thank you very much for this short introduction. We are now open to the defense speech by the proposing committee. Econ 3, are you ready?
Yes.
You're recognized.
Honorable Board, esteemed guests, fellow delegates, close your eyes and recall the consequences and the state COVID-19 has left us in. Well, let me help you. Picture thousands of stateless people in the roads, devastated firms that have spent years and even decades watching everything collapse and disappear while the list keeps on going on. It is time to end this. It is time to aid our economy with a bandage that will help heal the wound.
The local complementary currency bandage, a bandage so powerful and magical that will not only tackle economic issues, but also contribute to the environment and society as a whole. Observing the LCC's success of 2012, it is evident that entrepreneurs experienced a 60% increase in sales and 70% performed operations with complementary currency. Inspired by this, in a vision to create a more sustainable globe in all of its aspects, we consider it vital to protect these LCCs and further contribute to the boost of our member states' local economies. Evidently, in both our political statement and in four important aspects: sustainability, environment, community, and the economy. We therefore aim to educate the public and simultaneously ensure a secure field of LCCs, making them accountable, legitimate, and sustainable for both the present and the future. Hence, we envision an economy that will make the broader public, the people, our people, its priority. We envision a future in which LCCs will boost the community spirit, enhance local businesses, not only at a local level, but globally as well. We aim to help them overcome the nasty consequences that they have faced due to the coronavirus pandemic. Undoubtedly, you know for sure that our committee has provided the best solutions for ensuring security and success upon such crucial matter that our modern economy seems to be facing. With such a strong message and vision getting across, we urge you to vote in favor of our resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this nicely timed speech. We are now moving on to opposition speeches, and I see several hands in the air, and I would like to start with regional development. Reggie, you are recognized. 2 minutes for you.
Hello everyone, fellow delegates, Madam President and members of the board. As an Irish person, a proud European, and as a delegate of this European Youth Parliament, I am disgusted by this abhorrent proposition. This capitalist fever dream disregards the ideals and innate spirit of a united Europe. The de-evolution of the common market through undermining the euro with these weak currencies, and the destruction of the economic dependency destroys two major parts of what has made Europe, what has forged this age of peace amongst Europeans. For the first line highlights the committee's ignorance towards their own topic. However, they describe LCCs as a modern solution. LCCs have existed for thousands of years. They were implemented in the Philippine and Indonesian isles in the Pacific. They have been used in my own country in port towns during the early Middle Ages. They aren't a modern solution, but rather they were a past historical solution to geographic isolation. Secondly, Econ 3 have ignored the economic consequences of LCCs, as they generally monopolize sectors of the economy. You see, when local and isolated communities, as they describe as a major target of theirs, are generally dominated by a single supplier. If that supplier then adopts these currencies and pay their massive amounts of employees with this currency, those employees are limited to only paying in that region, therefore creating a circular system, but also monopolizing that system. That's the benefit of a nation.
Thank you very much. I will have to cut you off here. These are your 2 minutes over. Next up, we have one more chance for a speech, which will come from NV1. You're recognized. 2 minutes, please.
Dear delegates, honorable board, I would like to congratulate Econ 3 for their very solid aim statement. However, I would like to add some elements to it. The first thing I would say that it lacks is an aim to further formalize these LCCs, for example, with the regulator for the supply of the currency, because a resolution for it would undoubtedly increase the demand for the currency, and hence a regulator is likely to be better equipped to deal with this demand, to mint more of the currency and avoid creating scarcity in order for this currency to achieve this inclusiveness it aims to. Moreover, this formalization could also include the availability for firms in the local area to acquire finance with the currency as well, in order for the community to be further integrated as the committee aims. Moreover, another element that I would say is missing from the same statement is a further incentive for individuals to use the currency over regular currency, because I believe that for individuals to actually want to use this currency, a certain premium should be paid to use it over the formal currency of the country. It could be the euro, the pound, or any currency really, since the currency cannot be used internationally and only in the local area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will return to Econ 3. I would like to address, however, on the one hand, for speeches, please do keep your points somewhat respectful, as I'm sure you and everyone else has worked very hard on this. That goes out to the first speech in particular. For the second speech, I'm looking forward to the response by Econ 3 about points that have been brought up about the supply of the currency, but also about the incentive of using it. Econ 3, are you ready to respond to the opposition speeches? Econ 3, I currently do not see your hand. Yes, now I see your hand. You're recognized and have the floor.
Thank you for the recognition. First of all, we would like to say that we think that the main problem here is that the delegates did not understand what we mean by local complementary currencies. Local complementary currencies are not weakening the formal national currencies, so they are not weakening the euro, but they are meant to exist like beside them, so they are complementary. Secondly, we do not really understand at all what do they mean by us fulfilling capitalist streams, because we are helping local businesses that are being affected negatively by globalization, and we are helping small and weak communities by doing that. So we really disagree with that point. And also that in the second speech, they mentioned that you should pay premium. We don't agree, because then the currency would die. So it should work simultaneously and free. So yeah, that is all from us, and we look forward to your thoughts in the second part.
Thank you very much, Econ 3. I'm sure you'll have plenty of opportunity to respond to further questions raised. I would like to now start the debate mainly focused on the aim and the because clauses with a point from the Committee on Civil Liberties. Liebe, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognition. My point here is, to what extent do you want LCCs to be more recognized? Because if you're talking about paying taxes and giving them an equal footing as euro, for example, we might fear that sustainability will not be the final goal, because we will undermine national currencies in euro. So to what extent do you want these LCCs to be legally recognized and also implemented?
Thank you very much. We will move on to a point from Econ 1.
Thank you for the recognition. My name is Shahane. The Econ 1 committee is questioned by the fact that environmental sustainability was mentioned in the committee's mission statement, as well as in the defense speech, but still there is no word of it in the because part of the resolution, nor it is possibly related to the focus of Econ 3 committee. The representative yields the floor back to the Vice President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You do not need to hand me back the floor usually. We will proceed with a point from the Committee on Fisheries. Pesh, you're recognized.
Thank you for the recognition. We have a question about how the LCCs actually interact with the national currency, and if there is a problem of the local businesses, because it is kind of a burden for the local businesses. It's kind of a self-imposed sanction in some choices. So how are you going to solve some economic problems that come with the exchange and the actual function of such local currency? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last point before returning to the proposing committee will come from NV2. NV2, are you there?
We should be.
Okay, thank you for the recognition. I'm so grateful to read about such very inspiring topic, which is close to my heart. But unfortunately, I'm lacking some crucial information and crucial problems about the local community currencies. First of all, the aim is lacking the current problems of such currencies. Hence, how would you like to further encourage the member states to implement such currencies if you're not trying to solve the nowadays problems of such currencies? Moreover, you're talking about introducing the local currencies as a possibility to pay taxes with, but hence they no longer be local. And according to studies which are now conducting, then the currencies would lose significant part of its efficiency, hence would lose the meaning of it and the meaning of introducing so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to remind everyone to keep their points of open debate to one question at a time, so as not to overload the proposing committee. However, to quickly recap before returning to Econ 3, questions were raised on how to give recognition to local complementary currencies, how they would interact with the national currency of the state that they are implemented in, as well as questions about taxation and potential losing of efficiency that apparently studies claim. Econ 3, are you ready to respond to this round of open debate?
My hand is raised.
Econ 3, you're recognized.
So dear fellow delegates, I would like to thank you for your thoughts and comments on this topic. First of all, I would like to say on the topic of LCCs being recognized. So we just want that LCCs would be recognized to the point that companies and people in the region would actually use them and therefore boost the economy. This is our primary goal. And how, secondly, national currency and LCCs would be exchanged, of course, but that doesn't mean that taxes can actually be paid, let's say, in LCCs. That is also important. And towards the economic problem, thirdly, exchange of goods in the region would basically boost the economy, which is our main goal for the topic. And we would basically also include environmentally friendly aspects to the currency so that we could help the community and the local region grow. So that's it from us.
Thank you very much, Econ 3. We are kind of staying with you as we now move to the policy proposals. Are you ready to introduce the operative section of your resolution? If so, you're recognized. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, dear audience, our proposal encompasses 5 areas of public life that are key by achieving the goal of successful functioning of currency. First, we understand the importance of environmental issues in our days, and therefore we propose to encourage companies to be more environmentally conscious by adopting LCC for the exchange of the services and products, and to implement LCCs to participate in the decrease of the environmental impact of transport of goods and services, which is a major user of energy and oil, by promoting the local exchanges and the consumption of local goods and services by locals. Second, even though the currency is planned to be sufficiently independent of government influence, we cannot fail to provide for its protection. This is important since a high probability of counterfeiting currencies. That's why we propose to, first, create guidelines to prevent or minimize counterfeiting at LCCs, and the second, to ensure safety of the currency through the expertise and cooperation of organizations such as Anti-Money Laundering Europe and Central Bank Counterfeit Deterrence Group. Third, we propose to highlight the difference between LCCs and cryptocurrencies to the citizens of member states, since LCCs are quite new phenomenon and the majority of public is deficiently informed about the topic. Accentuate that the latter should not replace the former because they consist of 2 separate and different spheres of the economy. Fourth, the best way to influence
Please
people
conclude.
is through education. We suggest European Union member states launching an initiative to educate potential LCC users about the benefits and potential disadvantages they hold through introduction of a chapter in the subjects of economic and accounting in the school syllabus, and organization of national school conferences. And the last but not the least sphere is community. We propose local governments organize events where the only currency that can be used the LCC of that area. Some examples would
Thank you
include
very much for this last point.
That's all.
I'm sure that there will be plenty of questions raised already, and I would like to start this round with a point from Colt. You're recognized. I see that the point by Cult has in the meantime disappeared. Therefore, I shall move on to Libe.
Thank you for the floor. I'm Alicia from Libe. I do have a point about the OC number 1 subclause B. I wanted to ask you, how could you encourage companies to be more environmentally conscious? Because unfortunately, they have other priorities, like, for example, make profit. So at least they should be provided with some kind of incentives in order to be environmentally conscious. Otherwise, they certainly wouldn't choose being environmentally conscious over making profit. So in my opinion, this is unrealistic and you should do more than encouraging them to do it. It's not enough. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you very much. Next up is a point from the Committee on Regional Development. Reggie, you're recognized.
Thank you for recognizing me. I would like to ask a question about Clause 5. So you were stating that you didn't want the local currencies to affect the national currencies, like the euro. However, if you are promoting the use of the local currencies, less euros will be in circulation. Therefore, the currency rate of the euro will rise and overall exports will decrease. So this can mean that implementing these currencies has the potential to damage the economy, even though that is not your intention. What is your thought on this? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We have now the next point from Econ 1. Econ 1, you're recognized.
Thank you for the floor. About point number 5, how are you going to implement this solution without creating any exclusion? And why raise money in fundraising in local currencies if you then can't use this money in other regions?
Thank you very much. The last point for this round, going up the steps from Econ 1 to Econ 2. You're recognized, Econ 2.
Hello, I am from Econ 2, and my primarily question would be in regard to point 3, why should the European Central Bank specifically differentiate between crypto and LLCs when there are practically almost very few differences? And if you are going to differentiate between different types of crypto and LLCs, will NFTs, meaning non-fungible tokens, be also be allowed? And that for me is, for someone who has invested in crypto, a very fundamental point and question where you draw the line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How else could it be that after Econ 1 and 2, we will now proceed with Econ 3 to respond to this round of questions about how companies can be made to be more sustainable, how the use of LCC would reflect on the use of the euro. And one major encouragement when you bring up a point, instead of saying 0.5, I really encourage you to say what if, or how are you going to do it for the local events?
I'm sorry, Econ 1 has a directed funds. I'm so sorry.
Econ 1 is granted their direct response then. That is directly translating to the difference of LCCs and crypto, correct?
Yes, please,
Econ 1.
you. Yeah. I wanted to underline that there might be a misunderstanding here because cryptocurrencies are actually really internationally linked. You can use cryptocurrencies everywhere, and the LCCs are to be used in a certain area and to support a certain local community. So there are actually no, they are similar in the way that they must be regulated by the Central European Bank, but they're not similar at all when it comes to using them and the way they are stored and the way they are created. Thank you.